Welcome to the video on finding sources. In this video, we're going to talk about the definition of scholarly sources and what type of sources you should be using, as well as how to access those using our WCJC online databases. Remember that when you're ready to find sources, you have already written your paper. You and your group members have already written your paper, and you've written it without looking up any information. It's completely a genuine paper, and now you're ready to find sources to help support what you have already been saying. So let's talk about the different types of sources. There are scholarly versus non-scholarly. Obviously, we're looking for scholarly sources. Scholarly sources are also considered academic sources. They are written by an expert in a particular field. They are someone with credentials in that field. The articles in a scholarly journal um, or another type of scholarly source would be considered scholarly sources. And scholarly articles are evaluated by their peers who have either equal or greater education. Wikipedia is not a scholarly source. A .com is not a scholarly source. Googling for a source does not yield scholarly sources. Generalized web pages or websites that are not academic websites are not considered academic or scholarly sources. Now, you could actually Google Google Scholar, and Google Scholar is a search engine that targets academic sources. But a lot of those that are listed on Google Scholar are going to be dissertations, and they're going to require that you pay for that dissertation of someone who's trying to get their PhD. So, probably Google Scholar is not going to be your friend. Online databases through a college website or source are your best sources of scholarly information. And in fact, we have a large selection of online databases through the WCJC library that will be easily accessible for you. All right, so again, a scholarly source is written largely for experts in a certain discipline as a means of sharing their research or their insights or in-depth analysis of, whatever they're studying. Popular sources are, just about every other online and print publication, from websites to magazines to books that are written for non-specialists. So while we may enjoy Googling and finding out information about something, we are not accessing scholarly sources when we do that. That's why you're not going to be using Google or Wikipedia. So when you're trying to evaluate a source, there are certain things that you need to consider. You need to be thinking about what is the purpose of this source? What is the audience, the evidence, the stance of the person writing this? Is the material in the source relevant? Does the author have credentials? If so, what are they? Are they actually in that field or in a different field? Who's the publisher? If it's a website, who's sponsoring this website? That also, some websites, even a .gov website or a .org, can be sponsored by a certain organization or business that has an agenda. So you really want to be careful. At what level is this source written at? How current is it? Is it cited in other works on this topic? Is it available? Can I get my hands on it and see the whole article? And does it include other useful information? Plagiarism, that's our number one concern when it comes to writing research papers or any paper for that matter. So whenever you fail to acknowledge a source by citing the author and page or publication date in your text and including a list of those sources on the works cited page at the end of the essay, you've committed plagiarism. You have to avoid plagiarism by acknowledging sources and quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing carefully. Most plagiarism is not intentional. I mean, you don't wake up one day and go, today I'm going to throw my educational career in the trash and I'm going to plagiarize. Most of the time it happens because you have looked up information, you've read up on your topic, and then when it comes time to write your paper, you end up incorporating some of that material into your paper without even realizing it. Sure, there are those people out there that love to copy and paste stuff in their paper, knowing full well they're plagiarizing and just trying to see if they get caught. But that's about 1 or 2% of all students, okay? Most of it is unintentional. So, one reason I teach you the method I do is so you do not intentionally, you do not find yourself in a situation where you have unintentionally plagiarized. If you have written your whole paper before you ever look anything up, then everything you look up and add in from then on has got to be cited and documented. All right, so this is, and we're going to come back and actually, I'll show you kind of a live search in a second. But if you go to our WCJC webpage and you click on the library link, it'll bring you to this page. We have a wonderful library answers and chat that came about during the pandemic. So you could easily click on that and get some help with research. We'll be focusing our search on the library databases. And again, as I said, we'll come back and go over those extensively. Now, one thing you need to know when you're using something other than Google is that you've really got to be patient. I mean, Google has kind of spoiled us. We can easily just search a word or a term and yield the results we might be looking for. But these databases require a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more patience. These are scholarly sources and they are worth the extra effort. So we want to get used to trying out keywords and combinations of keywords. So in order to search efficiently, you want to use keywords and combinations of them that will focus your searches on the information that you need. You can start off with just one general keyword that might yield far too many results, so you'll need to switch to more specific terms or add in some extra keywords to that search. If your keyword search won't yield enough sources or what you get isn't what you're looking for, then use broader terms. Maybe you have limited your search a little too much. Try combinations of keywords or possibly substitute synonyms. Like if you were looking up home remedy and you weren't getting, or if you were looking up folk medicine and you weren't yielding enough results, then think about another way to refer to folk medicine. Home remedies are another way to refer to that. So you might search home remedy and get a bunch of different source opportunities. Searching requires flexibility in the words you use and in the methods you try. I would strongly recommend keeping either an electronic document open, or for those of you that would rather write things down, have a piece of paper. And every time you search something in a database, write down what word you searched. Because a lot of times, I've had this happen to me. Like I will search something and, that's too many. That's 30,000 results. That's too many. So I'll limit my search. And on the next one, I might get, 1,000. Well, that's better, but I think I can do even better. So I try something different and then I have no results. So I want to remember what I had just searched that had limited it from 30,000 to 1,000. So had I not been jotting those down, I may not know that. So make sure you're keeping track of what you're searching. There are, in each of these databases, there's a regular search and there's an advanced search. Some of those will allow you to ask questions in a conversational language. Others allow you to focus your search by using specific words or symbols. So let's talk about some different formulas, if you will, that you can use. Because a lot of times, if you'll think about this search as using a certain formula, it can help you yield the results that you want. So, some things to know. First of all, quotation marks mean something important when you're searching. If you type quotation marks around words to search for an exact phrase, for example, maybe you're doing a paper on Thomas Jefferson, so you literally want to find information on Thomas Jefferson. So if you put Thomas Jefferson in quotes, it will search for that exact phrase. Another kind of equation or technique you can use is the word and, okay, in all caps. Although I have done it without all caps too, but all caps. Type the word and to specify that more than one keyword must appear in the sources. For example, maybe I'm writing a paper about Thomas Jefferson, but within that paper, I'm also going to be talking about John Adams. And so maybe I want to search Jefferson and Adams so that I can get results that contain both of these guys or these things that they did together in politics or in the government. Some search engines, instead of you using an and, some of them would rather you use a plus sign instead of that and. So if I wanted both Jefferson and Adams, I would say plus Jefferson plus Adams. Another technique besides quotation marks or and that you can use is the word or. If you're looking for sources that include any of several terms, you could use or. Like, let's go back to our Jefferson topic. You could say Jefferson or Adams or Madison. So maybe you'd like to find information on any of these three men that were important in the as founding fathers of the country. You can also, another formula involves a negative, okay? Not to find sources without a certain word. Now, I think we've all had the experience, if you've done any research before, you've had the experience of maybe I'm researching Jefferson, but it just keeps kicking up these results that include Adams. And maybe I don't want to talk about John Adams in my paper about Jefferson. So you can actually use that formula, Jefferson, because I do want Jefferson, the word not, all caps, and then Adams, because I want Jefferson, but I do not want Adams. And again, some search engines call for that minus sign instead of the word not. So, and that minus sign, is actually what we know is a hyphen. So you can say plus Jefferson minus Adams or hyphen Adams. You can also use an asterisk. This is another technique that creates a different search result. Let's say that if you use the word teach with an asterisk, this is going to yield sources containing derivatives of the word teach. So it's not just going to get me results that say teach, but it's going to yield results that have teacher, teaching, as well as teach. So you've got the word teach, but that asterisk means you're going to get other forms of that word as well. All right, so when it comes to accessing these online databases with WCJC, you're going to, and again, I'm going to walk you through this process in a second, but you'll go to our webpage, you'll access the library page, you'll log into the online databases, and then you'll choose whichever database you're going to use. We're going to be looking at EBSCO, Academic Search Complete. And then you'll search for your topic using that basic search function that we talked about, okay? So you take your topic, you add the word and then add the particular point or topic for your paragraph. For example, if we were doing a cause and effect paper, which is a lot like a problem solution paper, by the way, and our topic was the causes of underage drinking, you could put your topic for the paper, your subject for the paper, the word and again, you need to use a capital, which I did not hear. And then whatever the topic is for for your body paragraph. If one of the causes of underage drinking you're exploring is their desire to cope with their life, you could say causes of underage drinking and coping, and that can be your search. Another search you could do, if you had the topic, the causes of texting while driving, that's the topic for the paper. The topic for one of the body paragraphs is that desire to stay connected. So they want to stay connected so bad that they will text while they drive. So your formula would be causes of texting while driving and connection. Another topic in a cause and effect paper, the causes of poor performance in the workplace. And one of the causes that will be explored in the body paragraph is work ethic. Is a reason that some people perform poorly in the workplace. So causes of poor performance in the workplace and work ethic could be what you search. If the topic for the paper is the effects of illegal immigration, then the and one of the effects is jobs. All right, one of the points. So you have your subject for the paper and one of your points, one of your body paragraph points. Maybe another topic or another point or effect of illegal immigration is health. So effects of illegal immigration and health. You always want to limit your search by selecting full text to the left of the search results, and I'll show you all that in a minute. You can limit your years if you need to. For example, if you've got a technology topic, if you've got a healthcare topic, those both are fields that are changing a lot. So, if you have an article from 1999, that's going to be super dated for technology. Just think about how much changes on your phone from when you buy it this year, or when you bought it 2 or 3 years ago, and when you get a new one this year. That's a lot can happen. Same in the medical field. So be careful about how you limit ranges. All right, so let's talk about some of your topics. All right, so I used the topic college dropouts, all right, in my sample. So if you've looked through that writing assignment for assignment and guideline pages, you will know what I'm talking about. All right, so college dropouts is my topic for the paper, and one of my areas I'm researching is solutions. What are some solutions to this problem? And that's kind of an overall what the paper's about, college dropouts and solutions, because this is a problem solution paper, right? Here's a more specific search, college dropouts and trade school or vocational school, because that's what one of my solutions is, going to a trade or vocational school to combat being a college dropout. I could also search problem of college dropouts, which is the topic for the paper, and incentive programs or incentives, because that's another one of my points. And then another way to search it is problem of college dropouts and flexible degree plans, because that's the subject for my paper and one of my solutions. So for any paper, whether we're talking, cause and effect, whether we are talking about problem solution, have the topic, the general topic for your paper, and whatever one of your solutions is or one of your points. All right, now let's also talk about citing sources. Remember, we have a two-part documentation system, and you should have already watched the video on MLA format and documentation. Once you have, you're going to have that in-text citation where you're going to cite something from your source that you find, and you're going to have a works cited entry, a complete entry for that source. So when you're in the databases, once you have that article opened in the online database like EBSCO, you can click Cite on the right side navigation, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, and scroll to find MLA format. You can copy and paste that citation to a Word document, making sure that when you're pasting, you select the Keep Source Formatting option. You will have to make the hanging indentation yourself, but this is what one of the sources on your works cited page would look like. Now notice you've got on the left margin, you have last name, comma, first name, comma, et al., which means there was more than two authors. The title of the article itself is in quotations. Journal of Nursing Management is in italics because that's the title of the actual journal, kind of like the magazine. Volume 21.4, the year of publication, the page range. Then you also have this information. This is the database where you access the information. And this is the date, it's web, and this is the date in which you actually access that information. We have what's called a hanging indentation. The first line is on the left margin, just like everything else is. But then each line after that first line is going to be indented over 5 spaces to create an indentation on these lines. When I go to my next source, it's left lined again. So I have the first part of the source is always hanging out here to the left by itself. I can easily see where one source begins and the next source begins, and so on and so forth. When you do research, you need to go beyond what your sources are saying. You need to use what they say to inspire and support what it is you want to say. These sources are here to help prop up and prove what you have been saying already in your paper. Now let's try using our databases, okay? So let me get out of this. Okay, here we are on the college webpage. I'm going to go and click on the library link. We get the library webpage. Again, here's that library answers in chat that can help you with questions you might have or problems you're having finding some sources. But we're going to go down. We've got a library catalog for books. We've got library materials that you can actually pick up. But we are focusing on the databases, and you should find everything you need in these online databases. Now, when you click on that, it'll ask you to log in the first time, okay? And it's going to ask you just simple things like, your last name or whatever. So just make sure you follow what it asks you for when you log in. Now, this is our database menu. It's divided into subject areas. If you need a paper for a health and medicine class, you could go to this location. Business technology. For those of you that might need to write an education paper or a science paper or a fine arts paper. Government and law, history, social science and behavioral sciences like psychology and sociology. And then we also have a general area, general information. Now you'll notice EBSCO, the Academic Search Complete, is on each one of these, okay? But let me tell you, if I were to use the general one, it's going to give me just a wide range of general hits on my subject. But if I use the health and medicine one, the librarians have been able to limit the results to just those areas where that topic applies in health and medicine, okay? So if you know what area you're dealing with, you may want to click EBSCO in that particular subject menu, part of the database menu. All right. EBSCO is one of those you're probably going to find everything you possibly need on these topics, okay? Another one that might be helpful is, let's see, if your topic deals with something in law enforcement or the law, you may want to take a look at government and law, or you may want to take a look at criminal justice and law enforcement. If it has something to do with science, you may want to look at some of these databases that are targeted towards science things. But let's just start with a very general one so I can give you kind of the lay of the land when it comes to these. All right, now, here we are in the EBSCO database. Here is where I can type in some of my, sample ideas. I could go with something very simple, like my whole topic, okay? College dropouts and solutions. I could start like that, not very specific. It's a more broad topic. And I've got 16 results, all right? Now, something you always want to do is over here on the left, you want to click full text. We only want to see those articles that give us the full text. We don't want a partial article. We want the whole thing. Now, let's say that I want to click on this article. You'll notice that there is what's called an abstract. Now, the abstract tells us what the article is about. You never want to cite from the abstract, okay? So do not cite the abstract. This gives you an overview. If this sounds like it might have something interesting that will be helpful to you, okay, you can select PDF full text. And in a second, it will actually load. There we go. There's your article. Okay. Now, the beauty of a PDF is that it actually is the scanned pages from that scholarly journal. So I have page numbers. It makes citing so much easier. Okay. Now let's talk about the way we normally do research in a very busy world today. Most of us do not have a couple hours to just sit down, find research, read everything, write notes on it. Most of us would say, I've got 30 minutes before I have to leave for work. So let me see if I can find some articles. It would be helpful if I could dump them in a folder so that I could come back and access them again later. So if you have had an account with EBSCO in the last year, you probably, and you still know your login information, you can probably still use it. Or maybe you used it for a history paper earlier this year. So if you already have an account with EBSCO, then great. You can just create a folder for this class or for this assignment and dump things. If not, you will click sign in and you will go through the process of creating an account. It is free because it was already been paid for with your student fees and whatnot, okay? But once you sign in, then you have the ability to add things to a folder. Now, even if you don't sign in, you will be able to add things to a folder, but you may never be able to access those things again. But once you have signed in and you see your name up here, then you could actually add this to a folder, okay? And you could come back to it later. I wouldn't print the article because sometimes these are like 40 pages, okay? And you don't even know if there's anything in here that you can use yet, right? All right, here's something I want to bring your attention to. If you hover over this piece of paper, you see Cite. And if you click it, it brings up a scrolling menu. We're looking for MLA, Modern Language Association, and this says Works Cited. This would be the actual Works Cited entry that goes on your Works Cited page. Now, let me show you a little trick. So, it's a good idea to have a blank document, okay? So, I can copy and paste, sorry, wrong one. I can copy that and paste it into my document. Now, there's a problem. Notice how it's highlighted? We don't want that, okay? What you can do is instead of just pasting, you can paste special, choose rich text format, and now look. Now, this is in a font that is different than what I'm going to be required to have for MLA. Remember, size 12. And it has no hanging indentation. But it still has the italics. It still has all the rest of the formatting. So I can go to the end of the first line, press return, tab, do the same thing here, do the same thing here, okay? And there we have our source and hanging indent. Now notice another thing it did. It has it in all caps. But in MLA, we don't use all caps, okay? So we fix that, okay? Now, when I find another source, I can copy and paste it on here. And when I'm finished, I've got a list of all my sources. If I decide I'm not using a source, then I go and I delete that source off of this page. I can alphabetize it, put Works Cited up here as the title and a page, last name and page, and it's ready to turn in as a Works Cited, which is what we want, okay? Now, let's go back. All right, let's try another article. Now, here's the place where I was telling you that you can change the age range of these articles, okay? and limit what you're seeing, especially if it's a very time-sensitive topic. Now, I could try another search. Let's see. Let's try college dropouts and incentive programs. Let's see if there's anything. Try early graduation incentives. Okay. All right, I can check full text. There's my article. If I want to save that for later, I can put it in my folder. If I want to cite it, because this looks promising and I'm keeping this in my folder, then remember I can copy that one. It comes Murray comes before O'Keefe, so I could put it here. Check rich text format. Change this to my Times New Roman. Size 12. Add in my hanging indentation. Click. Enter. Tab. Click. Return. Tab. So now I've got two sources. Now, these are also not in double spacing. So I need to go here, tell it line spacing. I want double spacing. I want, don't add a space between paragraphs. So there we go. It's in the format I need, right? All right, so you've got to play around with these databases. You've got to try different word searches, search terms. You've got to just play around a little bit with it. It is not Google. It is not going to be that easy. Okay, there is an advanced search where you can limit things even more. I find that a little confusing, so I usually am in the basic search and I find everything I need. Remember that, depending on your assignment, you're going to be responsible for finding a certain number of sources, right? So you are going to need to, now you're ready to go out and find those sources. Remember, you need to find sources for each of your body paragraphs to support what you have already established. Make certain that you do your part to find those two sources per body paragraph. Make sure those sources are supporting what you've already said. It takes a little bit of work, and you have to be patient, and you have to work with those online databases and keep a record of those sources. The beautiful thing about the databases are that you can cite those sources, and that takes out the work of that works cited page. It's already done for you. If you handle things correctly and cite those sources from that database. Good luck. Get out there and try finding your sources when you have written that paper and you're ready to do so. All right. Thank you for joining me.